Around June of 2018, a game named Among Us was released. You might be familiar with it now, but unlike how you'd think, it wasn't always so popular. It wasn't until 2 years after its release when it began gaining attention. The game was made to be very simple. There would be a set number of people who play as crew members, and their goal is to fix a broken spaceship. And among these crew members, randomly selected people are chosen to play as imposters. Their goal is to kill the rest of the crew members and prevent the spaceship from getting fixed. Nobody would know who the imposters are other than the imposters themselves, and the crew members would have to figure out who it is before it's too late. The concept of this game is so simple, yet this simple game became so popular around 2020 that it almost became impossible to avoid seeing content regarding it. And just like any other successful game, bootlegs were made. But what if I told you that Among Us was probably also a bootleg? To find out, we have to go back into the past. No, even further into the past. Perfect. I remember being a very weird and awkward kid 8 years ago. I distinctly remember a friend of mine asking me to download a game. Since it was free, I got it and played rank with him. Now you might be wondering how this is all even relevant. It's because the game I played is the game that this video is about. The name of it is Deceit, and although it looks very different from Among Us, it's practically the same. The rules are simple. 6 people spawn into the game, 2 of whom are infected. The goal of the game is for the non-infected to reach a certain part of the map to win. The infected need to stop the other 4 members from escaping. They are picked randomly among the 6 people, and wait, is this sounding familiar? There are also utilities all around the map that can be used by both parties. You do not need to vote on kicking someone out, but it would make sense to hold a meeting without it being a part of the game. Now, similar as these two games sound, there are slight differences between them, but overall, the end goal and theme is the very same. So what happened? Why is it that Among Us became so popular, but Deceit seems to be ignored entirely? Well, there are actually 3 very solid reasons for this. One of the biggest one being the time of when it came out. It was quarantined during 2020 because of a global pandemic, and so during that pandemic, everyone had to stay home. With nothing to do other than playing online games with their friends, people began downloading Among Us. Because why not? Schools were closed, jobs became flexible enough to do from homes, and it was almost as though the world took a break from its chaotic cycle. Everyone wanted to try something new and fun, so trying out a relatively new and free game just made sense. If it wasn't for quarantine, the game would probably not have gained the popularity that it did. But it still doesn't explain why Deceit didn't become just as popular. It's simple really. Deceit demands a PC to run. It's a Windows game. I remember playing it on my potato PC at the time, and it struggled a lot. I played the game on 30 FPS, and although I enjoyed it, I couldn't experience it properly all the way. And that still remains true for a lot of people in quarantine. A lot of my friends used to play Among Us on their phones. It's just well optimized and isn't as demanding as Deceit. And since people are more likely to own a phone than a computer, it just makes sense to have a bigger and broader player base. But having it spread faster than the pandemic itself is also one of the biggest reasons. I can guarantee you that just about every streamer you can think of, aside from the recently grown ones, have played this game as a collaboration during 2020. Every day there was a massive crossover, and highlights kind of filled up the entirety of YouTube and Twitch. This influenced people even more to play it. It was new and it broadcasted how fun it could really be with friends. Streamers also showed people a lot of strategies on how to play better, all to fall second to straight up yelling. So, did Among Us really copy this game? Well, at a glance you can tell that both games look different visually. The mechanics are also very different. Among Us makes you question everything psychologically, and Deceit is more about survival. Among Us is mostly played by a mixed audience, involving children and, well, bigger children. It grew up to become a chaotic and fun experience for its player base, and combined with its cartoony, goofy looking characters, it's easy to pick the game up as being casual. Deceit, however, is more on the serious end. I mean, this game has a competitive ranked mode, which is kind of odd for a game like this, and oh, well this game is dead. I keep forgetting that 2017 was 8 years ago. It's telling me that people liked playing this game seriously, so none of the chaotic screaming really applied here. If anything, it's likely you'll get muted and then tossed if you try it. And just like any other game, it's more likely to have people play casually than competitively. And this game is no different. The biggest reason why Among Us is deemed to be more popular is because of how simple the game was made to be. Among Us gives me an appeal which I can't really seem to explain, and Deceit reminds me of horror games, but a multiplayer one. Now, whether or not Among Us took inspiration from this game is up to you to decide. I find it oddly similar and I wanted to make a video on it. If you haven't tried Deceit, then I urge you to try and play it with your friends because hey, it's free and you might end up liking the game. Also make sure you have friends because if you don't, then good luck finding people to play with. There's also a sequel to the game, but yeah, let's not talk about that. If you like videos like this, then consider subscribing. I need to get me monetized. Please.